that is not good.
What's going on, YouTube? We're back out in the barn today, and we're going to keep on working on the 5.0 swap Miata, get a couple more things done. Today we're going to cut another hole in the firewall for the driver's side header to go through. Might have to take a little bit of the gas pedal, brake pedal assembly out so that it has some clearance. We'll have to do some modifying to that. Hopefully not too much, but I know we're going to have to do some. And we'll get that hole cut through it. And if we have some time, we'll probably do a little bit more trimming on the rocker, which I haven't finished from last time, but I finally got back out here, and it is cold today, so probably won't be out here super long. But we're going to give it a shot. So right now we're going to look at cutting a hole on this side, which you can kind of see in there where I've sketched the location for cutting the hole. You can see I don't have the brake booster in, and that like rectangular hole that the lines kind of go through is actually where the old throttle cable bracket mounted for the Miata throttle. So, but inside there you can kind of see some of the bracketry. That's all still inside there. Here on the inside of the car, we can see the brackets, and you can kind of see how that's going to be a major problem, because right there is where that pipe's going to come through. So the good news about this pedal setup is it kind of is its own thing. Like, the brakes can be mounted separate. Like, this doesn't have to be connected. So I'm kind of hoping that the pipe comes through in a way that I can just modify the pedal. It's hard to see it in here, but it's up here. Hopefully I can just modify that. This car did have cruise, so it's got the funky little dual direction thingy on the pedal. So I don't know if that'll come in handy or be in the way. But that's all stuff we'll have to figure out once we kind of get going on it. I got to mimic the other side, which I've already cut, but hopefully I can do a better job of getting that to look better. That one didn't really work out very well. So, but I have a better idea of what I'm doing on this side. We'll see if I even do it that same way or not. So here's the header. It's literally for an LS Chevy motor, and this is a small block Ford. This is a 5.0 motor from the 80s. You see that kind of just sits on there. Obviously that's a whole bore off, but it's also not low enough because it hits the frame rail. So I got some tweaking to do, which tells me that that is too high. Now, one thing I'm not sure about, which I've kind of contemplated a little bit, is maybe I could cut the flange on these headers and tip it some so that it actually is higher up on this particular side. But I'm kind of trying to avoid any modifications to these because they're so junky. I say they're junky, but they're so cheap. So I have a feeling they're going to crack or just kind of wear out, I guess, is the better way to look at it. And so with that in mind, I want to be able to replace these without having to do really any work. I want to be able to buy another set for $100 and slap them in. Obviously I gotta do modifications to them anyways to get them to fit on a 5.0, but that's kind of the goal, is to not have to do hardly anything. So we'll kind of see where I go with all of this, but I think for now we're gonna start cutting small amounts to try to get this to fit through the firewall, to get it to sit where it needs to sit, and then we'll go from there. So I've marked right here where in line with the head is the exhaust port for this particular cylinder, which is where I need this to be notched out. And there's a lip here. It's not that far, but there's a lip here on the frame rail that's from like the pinch that they've seamed together. And I'm going to grind a bunch of that away to make clearance for the pipe to sit down in here a little bit before I actually go and cut this part. Okay, so there, it's notched. I might have to clearance it a little bit more, but for now that'll definitely hold the clearance that I need until till I can get it a little bit more figured out for the hole that we got to put in right there. Okay, swapped over to the Sawzall. We're gonna cut this in a square. We're gonna go from right here. We're gonna go down to the seam. We're gonna go over. We're gonna follow this up, and basically the top of the hole. That's what we're gonna cut out, and we'll see kind of how it goes. I think it's actually pretty close. This side has a little bit more space than the other side. So the motor got in here about an 1/8 inch off center. So we'll see how that goes from there. I think that'll work out good. Hopefully. Otherwise, we're going to end up with a big old honking hole like the other side. But we're going to try to avoid that. Okie doke. It's in there. That hole's a little bit nicer, but the holes and random things that are in the firewall for OEM pass-throughs kind of get in the way sometimes. And I forgot to peel this piece of tape off, so I missed that there's a big old hole right there. So I got to clean that up or make some kind of filler plate probably. It ain't pretty. It definitely is not pretty. It's very hard to do when you can't actually get the thing in the right spot, and measuring for it is not impossible but very difficult. So then unfortunately the brakes are right next to the header, so I'm gonna have to make something kind of heat shield of some sort, kind of block that, keep that from cooking the master cylinder, but I don't think that'll be too big of a deal. Hopefully not. It might be one of the things we struggle with down the road, but it's looking pretty decent, I think. Both headers are on there, and it does fit, and they don't need any modifications at this point. Now, obviously, if I have to tweak it later to get more clearance on the master cylinder, I might have to do that, but for now I think we're just gonna run it like this. So we got our headers figured out. Yes, kind of crappy looking, but that's the best I can do with the situation I had. Going through the firewall, those are going to come together over here inside the car, and we'll connect those over in this home over here, come out the side, and boom, we have a singular side pipe. So I've made this tip. I took the, I'll show you how I made that. Basically cut a U-bend, and you cut it like right along basically the tangent of that. Makes you this pretty sweet looking little tip. I have a little bit of cleaning up to do. I got to shorten this by about 2 inches to get it to kind of go back in here a little bit, so the tip ends where the end of the cut is. I've got to do some more trimming and fitting for that part. Okay, after 20 minutes of setup, I'm finally ready to make a cut. This is the pipe that's going to go from inside the car to outside the car, so this is where my muffler is going to attach. I made a mark here to cut this off at, which in theory should be a little short of where I actually need it to go to butt into the bottom of the muffler. So we'll see how that turns out, I guess, at the end of this, but this is how I'm going to do it. Alright, now that that's cut, do a little tool swap. Plug it in. I'll just basically clean this booger that's on here off. Alright, that's good. So here's the 90, about the position it needs to go into. Here's the muffler. Well, I'll call that a resonator, about its position. It's not too bad, about where it needs to go. And this guy will go, alright. I guess y'all can watch. I don't think it'll hurt anything too bad. So, got my welder on here a minute. All we're doing is we're just going to tack the tip into this. And we're going to try to keep the front of it as flush as possible. So I think what I might do is tack it in here, so that way it's kind of semi-hidden. And then I'll have this welded all the way around. So it'll look pretty when it's done, but for now I think that's where that's going to sit. might pull this. Now that I think about it, I was actually going to make this piece come off so that if I had to, I could put more muffler packs in here. Maybe what I'll have to do is put a V-band on this side and just swap this for something else. For if it's just too absurd. That's what I'll do. So we're going to stick this tip in here. We're going to actually pack it way down in there because I want that to be as short as possible now. And then we'll clamp this to this. And put on our protection. And we're going to pause this while I spark. And then we'll come back. Okay. Alright, I think I'm going to grab a V-band. Stick it on the end of this. Look at that, you can see it all the way out the tip. But just so that I have one more point that I can actually adjust this with. Man, I'm not sure. This is a lot shorter than I was anticipating it all ending up being. So maybe I'll have to do a little bit more thinking on that because I do have another option. Okay, so I could use a V-band clamp there, and you know that gives me rotational adjustment as needed. It's a great seal. These are actually like the interlocking ones. They got like a little ridge on the inside, so they kind of like lock together. They're really nice. But there's also these band clamps, and this is actually how I was gonna hold it on. So I was gonna do this and put some mounts in the car to hold that. This is, you know, like that kind of. And that actually would work. That could hold it. I don't think I can get this here. That kind of looks stupid. That's not right. But up here is not bad. Could make that work. And those are shiny. That's not shiny, so. But this doesn't take up more space. I'm gonna go grab that 9 and see what that looks like a second. Oh. So the bad news is that this actually fits inside of this. So either I can make this all one piece, or I can cut this shorter again. In which case, let me turn that off. In which case, this part of it can end up, you know, kind of wherever. Man, I'm not sure what's the best option. I don't believe that the pipe, the muffler does not fit inside of the V-bands. But I could make like a tiny little piece of, just a piece of straight. Stick it in there. And then the V-band fits on that. So then I can, you know, do that if needed. Man, I'm not sure what to do exactly. I think I need the internal part done first so that I can make sure the 90 part's gonna work like I want it to. Because this part's like this in the car, and then this is like this in the car, but what's that clocking gonna do? And I don't really know. Like the tip, I don't want it to be perfectly perpendicular to the car. I want it to turn down just a little bit. But I don't know what that needs to look like yet. So that's another reason why I'm not going to tack this yet. I was kind of thinking if I do a V-band. If I do a V-band on it, then I can tack that part of it together. And I just got to trim this down more. Alright, we got the little 45 piece cut. So I was actually surprised I was able to get a 45 in that hole. But I think it'll work. So we got the welder running, ready to make a couple tacks. We're gonna stick this piece to this piece about like this. It'll go about like that. So that'll be our first little piece that we'll tack together, and we'll go from there. All right, shiny, tack to not shiny. I'm at welder way too hot. Blew a hole right through that sucker. So that sucks, but for now that'll hold. That one will work, and that one will work. Now I gotta turn it back down. So we'll go set this in the car. Should go like about like that when it's in there, and then we'll see how it goes. All right, so here it is in here. So we can clean it up. So that should go right about there. You can still move it in and out based on the fact that the header's not actually bolted to the motor. But that should work about perfect. Run that right along the top there. That'll be nice. Nice and tight. So we got to kind of work our way that way a little farther, which I'm hoping if I do it out of like a piece of straight and a 90, I'll be able to wrap down right around the other side of, oh, there we go, right on the other side of the header there. So let me get a couple more pieces, see what it looks like. Okay, so one, these pipes are the oiliest, nastiest things. They probably could have used about half of the oil they did, but for cheap, it's cheap. I think I just pushed the header too far over. I'm not positive for sure, but there's kind of where it's lining up, which it sort of looks like I'm gonna be able to get this part together. But I have some movement. I could actually, use a straight chunk, and this will fall down, so bear with me momentarily. And we go like this. That part would actually work. Be this way. The little piece in between there. But I still have to come out of here and go down. And right now, my best option for that is the same thing I did on the other side with the tight 90. And we're talking like we're still way down there. So part of me is thinking what I'm gonna have to do is notch this so that I can basically merge these together in that joint. I'm telling you, they're the oiliest things ever. Yeah, if I could do that into the 90, it wouldn't be so bad. So let me see if I flip this. Look at that. Look at how gross and nasty that all is. It's disgusting. You can kind of see it. Like, yeah, it's nasty. Okay, so stick this back in that piece again. I don't have a whole lot of rigmarole to make that work. I could beat this part of the tunnel back in if I got to. I'm not too concerned about that at all. Basically, this goes on here. That. And then this comes down off of there. Which, I mean, it wouldn't be too hard to make that. But I don't know how I would do that here. So that's something I'll have to kind of figure out and work on. But if you have any ideas, feel free to shoot a comment because I don't know. I'm trying to figure it out. So we're still looking at how we're going to get this to merge together. I do think I could have it mounted up in there. The other thing is I could run this on the other side, which bear with me once more. About to have another bang. I could run this over here and have some more room. Yeah, I'm not really sure yet. I think I'm going to have to order the Y pipe that I was going to get. Unfortunately, that is going to take some more time and another like $25.